Of a sordid truth, Katherine May Knight did not have an easy start in life. She was born in October 1955 to a mother who, though married, committed adultery numerous times with her husband's best friend. She would then get married to this guy and get raped, sexually assaulted, and beaten up multiple times per day, all through the marriage that resulted from this adulterous relationship. This wasn't what was sad about Katherine's life though, because at such a tender age, she would be sexually assaulted till the age of 11. Still, all these could not be quantified to the crimes she would commit that would eventually see her behind bars forever. One might say she had deep issues, but is that any reason to slaughter your husband and cook him for dinner like a Thanksgiving turkey? This is Katherine's story and how she cooked, ate, and served her husband to her children for food. Katherine initially presented herself as a model student, but beneath the surface, her true nature was revealed as a loner who targeted smaller students for bullying. Her aggression escalated to the point where she injured a boy with an unspecified weapon, leading to a self-defense incident with a teacher. At 15, she dropped out of school without acquiring basic literacy skills. Her early employment found her in a clothing factory, cutting fabrics as her primary task. However, her interest in cutting took a different turn when she secured a job at a local slaughterhouse, specializing in the precision cutting of animal organs. Thriving in her role, Katherine quickly ascended through the ranks, earning a promotion and a set of butcher knives that she held dear. These knives found a place above her bed, a symbolic display reflecting their perceived utility. This unusual fascination with cutting became a recurring theme in Katherine's life, as she continued to keep her prized knives above her bed in every residence. During this phase of her life, she encountered a fellow worker named David Kellett at the slaughterhouse. Kellett shared a penchant for heavy drinking, a trait inherited from his father. His life took a dark turn after a traumatic incident during his previous job as a railway worker. Witnessing his best friend's death during a failed train track switch and subsequently rescuing injured children from a school bus collision haunted him. This ordeal led to a decline in his performance, resulting in the loss of his job. Seeking a fresh start, he joined the Aberdeen slaughterhouse, where he formed a close bond with Katherine's brother. The relationship between Kellett and Katherine was far from conventional. Whenever Kellett found himself in frequent altercations, Katherine would often intervene, physically confronting and overpowering his opponents. Katherine, known for her violent and unpredictable nature, would fiercely defend herself against any perceived offense. In 1974, the two decided to tie the knot, arriving at their wedding on a motorcycle while heavily intoxicated. During the wedding, Barbara, Katherine's mother, offered David a stark warning about her daughter. She cautioned him to be cautious, emphasizing Katherine's volatile nature. Barbara suggested that crossing Katherine or engaging in any form of infidelity could have dire consequences. Despite these words of caution, David proceeded with the wedding. On their wedding night, the couple consummated their marriage 3 times. However, this fell short of Katherine's expectations, triggering her anger. Frustrated, she attempted to strangle David in a fit of rage. Despite this tumultuous start, the two somehow remained married, and the relationship continued to deteriorate over time. In a particular incident, David's participation in a darts competition led him to the finals, causing him to return home later than expected. Despite being pregnant, Katherine reacted explosively, burning all of David's clothes and striking him across the face with a frying pan, revealing the tumultuous nature of their marriage. David sought refuge at a neighbor's house after fleeing from home, losing consciousness due to a fractured skull. Initially contemplating pressing charges, he was persuaded by Katherine to abandon the idea. Soon after, Katherine gave birth to their first child, Melissa. Realizing the cycle of violence was unending, David decided to end the relationship, leaving Katherine for another woman and relocating to Queensland. The day after his departure, Katherine took Melissa out in a stroller, violently shaking it. Hospitalized for postpartum depression, she spent weeks in recovery, only to repeat her troubling behavior upon release. In a disturbing incident, Katherine left Melissa near railroad tracks, intending to expose her to an oncoming train. A local homeless man intervened just in time, rescuing Melissa. Katherine's subsequent arrest led to another stint in a mental hospital. After her release, she assaulted a woman with a butcher knife, demanding transportation to Queensland to confront David. The woman managed to escape at a service station, alerting the police. Katherine, wielding a knife, took a young boy hostage before being subdued by an officer with a broom. Hospitalized once again, Katherine expressed a readiness to kill, targeting a mechanic she blamed for enabling David's escape. Learning of this, David returned to Aberdeen with his mother to support Katherine. Upon her release, she, David and his mother relocated to Ipswich, west of Brisbane. There, Katherine secured another butcher job and had another daughter with David. 4 years later, she abruptly left David, moving back to Aberdeen to live with her parents. Returning to her old job at the slaughterhouse, she injured her back, leading to disability. With little to occupy her time, Katherine once again found herself in the company of another man named David. On the night of 1986, David Saunders moved in with Katherine and her 2 daughters, continuing to pay for his old apartment. However, Katherine's paranoia about his activities in her absence led to frequent, unfounded expulsions from their shared home. Despite the tumultuous relationship, Saunders would return upon Katherine's pleas, creating a cycle of separation and reconciliation. In May of 1987, Katherine, without any belief of Saunders' infidelity, chose to demonstrate the consequences he might face if he were unfaithful. She took his 2-month-old dingo puppy and slit its throat right in front of him before rendering him unconscious with a frying pan. The following year, after the birth of their daughter, they decided to move in together. Katherine adorned their new home with a bizarre assortment of decorations, including animal skins, horns, bear traps, leather, old boots, machetes, rakes, and pitchforks, creating an unsettling ambience reminiscent of a psychopathic interpretation of an Applebee's. During another heated argument, Katherine struck Saunders and escalated the violence by stabbing him in the gut with a pair of scissors. This prompted Saunders to finally move out, but upon his ill-fated return, he discovered that Katherine had maliciously destroyed all of his clothes. Taking an extended leave from work to go into hiding, Saunders evaded Katherine's attempts to locate him. When Saunders eventually returned to see his daughters, he found that Katherine had preemptively gone to the police, portraying herself as fearful and securing an apprehended violence order against him, akin to a restraining order. In 1991, Katherine became pregnant by a former co-worker named John Chillingworth, giving birth to a son named Eric. Their relationship lasted for 3 years before Katherine left him for another man with whom she had been cheating. Unaware of the true nature of his fortune, Chillingworth found himself liberated from a tumultuous connection with Katherine. In 1993, John Charles Price, a married man with 3 children, began an affair with Katherine Knight. Despite her notorious violent history, John, a well-respected figure, engaged in a tumultuous relationship with her, leading to frequent separations and reconciliations. The violence escalated, culminating in Katherine's revenge-driven act of sending false evidence of theft to John's boss, resulting in his firing. Following another violent episode, John obtained a restraining order against Katherine. However, they eventually resumed contact, leading to a gruesome night in 2000. Katherine, having meticulously planned the murder, stabbed John 37 times. Several hours after Price had died, Knight skinned him and hung the skin from a meat hook on the architrave of a door to the lounge room. She then decapitated Price and cooked parts of his body, serving up the meat with baked potato, carrot, pumpkin, beetroot, zucchini, cabbage, yellow squash, and gravy in 2 settings at the dinner table, along with notes beside each plate, each having the name of one of Price's children on it. She was preparing to serve his body parts to his children. A third meal was thrown on the back lawn for unknown reasons, and it is speculated that Knight had attempted to eat it but could not. This has been put forward in support of her claim that she has no memory of the crime. Price's head was found in a pot with vegetables. The pot was still warm, estimated to be between 40 and 50 degrees Celsius or 104 and 122 degrees Fahrenheit, indicating that the cooking had taken place in the early morning. Sometime later, Knight arranged the body with the left arm draped over an empty 1.25-liter soft drink bottle with the legs crossed. This was claimed in court to be an act of defilement, demonstrating Knight's contempt for Price. Knight had left a handwritten note on top of a photograph of Price. Blood-stained and covered with small pieces of flesh, it read, "Time got you back, Johathon, for rapping or raping my doubter or daughter. You too, Beck, Price's daughter, for Ross, for Little John, his son. Now play with Little John's dick, John Price. Sick." The accusations in the note were found to be groundless. It wasn't until the next morning after this gruesome scene that a neighbor discovered John's car still in the driveway, prompting concerns from co-workers. Upon entering John's home, the police found a horrific scene with blood-soaked hallways leading to what appeared to be meat. Katherine was unconscious but alive, having ingested a lethal amount of medication. In a disturbing revelation, John's skinned body hung in the doorway. After her first attempt to enter a guilty plea to manslaughter was turned down, Knight was charged on March 2, 2001 with Price's murder. She pleaded not guilty. Due to the illness of her attorney, her trial was postponed from its original date of July 23, 2001 to October 15, 2001. 5 of the 60 jury candidates accepted Justice Barry O'Keefe's invitation to be excused from the trial because of the nature of the photographic evidence. Following the reading of the witness list to the prospective jurors, several more witnesses withdrew and the jury was impaneled. The judge then conferred with Knight's solicitors and decided to postpone until the next day. Knight entered a guilty plea the following morning and the jury was removed. The information that Justice O'Keefe had been informed of the plea modification the day before was then made public. He had postponed the trial and mandated an overnight mental evaluation to ascertain whether Knight was competent to enter a guilty plea and was aware of the ramifications of doing so. Although they did believe Knight to be sane, Knight's legal team intended to defend her by asserting amnesia and dissociation, a claim that is backed by the majority of doctors. Knight was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder by 2 psychiatrists. The guilty plea has never had an explanation, and even after it was entered, Knight would not take ownership of her acts. Knight's solicitors asked to have her excused from some of the facts during the sentencing hearing, but the request was denied. Knight grew uncontrollably agitated and required to be put under sedation when Timothy Lyons took the stand and detailed the skinning and beheading. On November 8th, Justice O'Keefe noted that Knight's lack of regret and the seriousness of the offense called for a harsh punishment. For the first case ever against a woman in Australian history, he condemned her to life in jail, refused to set a non-parole period, and directed that her documents be marked definitely never to be released. Despite her violent history, Katherine, known as Nana in prison, has become an unexpectedly popular and respected figure among inmates. Serving as a mediator and event planner, she is regarded by some as a gentle soul, a stark contrast to her criminal past. Despite her Category 4 inmate status, the highest designation, Katherine will spend the remainder of her life behind bars.